It's amazing how quickly Christmas seems to come around every year, and it's time to start thinking again about the food you'd like to eat and serve to your family and friends. In the last couple of years, I've experimented with new recipes. For example, the buttermilk marinated turkey crown and plum pudding parfait. But this year, I've decided to serve things the traditional way. And I'm starting off with what many people think is even more important than the turkey, the ham. The traditional way to cook the Christmas ham is to boil it, and so many of us have memories of a steam-filled kitchen. This is a lovely way of cooking it, a wee bit different, and what I've done is I've simply sat it on a trivet so that it sits above the stock and it braises overnight in the oven. It's very, very clever. Put some celery, some onion, and I put in some root ginger, some star anise, which I love, and this is a great spice to have at Christmas, even in mulled wine. It works really, really well. You put this in to the base, just chop everything roughly, black peppercorns and some cloves, so it's lovely and aromatic. Then we just finish it with a good Irish cider. Pour that at the bottom of the dish, sit your trivet, and then sit your ham. Cover it with some parchment paper, which keeps it really moist and succulent. Then you cover it in tin foil, and we've cooked that at about 120 for about 12 hours, so nice and slow. The beauty about this, you can do this at least 2 or 3 days ahead, but keep it in your fridge. That beautiful braising liquor there, keep that for a beautiful soup, a lovely sauce. Do not waste that, full of flavour. Now I'm going to talk to you about the glaze, and I think the glaze really makes the ham. Some light brown sugar is going to go into the saucepan. Put in our apricot jam, scrape this in, and then into this, I'm putting ground ginger. I'm going to put a teaspoonful of this in here. Bring this to the boil, and we need to just soften this up. So I'm just going to get a wooden spoon here and stir this through. If you want to, you can put a little splash of balsamic vinegar. Ginger works really well, or allspice, but try and keep it fresh, keep it different. Like every year we try and do some different glaze, which really makes the ham interesting. And I suppose how you cook the ham and how you store it is really important over the Christmas period. So when your ham is cooked, make sure that you let it go cold, wrap it in cling film and keep it in the fridge. So I've just softened this up here. Turn down the heat. I'm going to put the juice of the lemon and the rest of my ingredients. This is sweet and this will give a lovely sharpness to it. So squeeze that in. And you're going to stir that through. I'm going to put in some stem ginger. This is the third different ginger that I've used. So the fresh ginger, cooking the ham, the ground ginger, which is there, and then the stem ginger. So this is crystallized ginger. Slightly sweet, but lovely and tangy. Works really, really well in this glaze. I'm going to put in some star anise. This has to be one of my favorite spices. So wonderful in a fresh fruit salad. You're cooking duck, roast and pork, it's so delicious. 4 of those, and then just warm this up again. And this needs to reduce just for about another 2 minutes. So just keep stirring it. This will keep happily a few days ahead. It will kind of harden a little bit or set. You just warm it up and then brush it over the ham. Let the glaze reduce a little to intensify the flavour and to make it nice and sticky. When you're ready to glaze the ham, cut off the skin and the fat and then score the meat. This will allow the glaze to penetrate into the ham. I think a pastry brush is the best tool for this job. Be generous and make sure the ham is completely covered. That's it ready. It needs to go into the oven. I have it preheated at 180. That's going to take about 45 minutes. And probably after maybe 20-25 minutes, I'll just get the pastry brush and brush it over again. I have a tiny little bit left, so I'm going to make sure that I use it all up on the ham. I want to show you a really good relish to serve with the ham. Sweat off some sliced onions, squeeze some garlic in and give it all a good stir. Add a little bit of sugar. This will help the onions to caramelise, and pour in some red wine and some balsamic vinegar. This makes the relish sharp and tangy. Bring it to the boil and let it simmer for 15 to 20 minutes until it's sticky and caramelised. It's as simple as that. This is what the ham looks like when it's glazed. It's so aromatic, it looks beautiful, lovely and sticky. Let it rest, don't serve it straight away, let it rest for about maybe 20 minutes. I just think it's such a dramatic centrepiece. We're going to garnish this with a little bit of watercress. That's more than enough. And then for our onion relish. I've let it cool down, and this will keep for weeks in your fridge, and especially over the festive season, if you want to make the ultimate, turkey and ham sandwich, this will work brilliantly. Best way to store it, I think, is in a little Kinder jar. So just spoon this in. It's a lovely homemade gift that you can give to your family. Clean around the jar, and then just with a spoon, just going to put this at the centre of the dish and let everyone kind of help themselves. Best way is to bring that to the table, slice it. I'm telling you, they're going to be wowed with this ham. As well as the big occasions when everyone's sitting around the table, you might want to have some party food. Here are some quick ideas for canapes that you could serve as a starter as well. First one I'm going to show you, using some prawns which are already cooked. Dice up a little bit of lime with a little bit of rapeseed oil and the zest of some lime and a little bit of lime juice. A little bit of cod salad, get a spoonful of mango, tiny little piece of the lime which I've just cut into little segments, and then arrange your prawn. That's our micro coriander here. Arrange this on the little platter here. I'm going to talk you through all the other little party bites. The first one here is Gubin Smokehouse. They produce a beautiful chorizo. In the centre, what I've done is celeriac, which is a root vegetable. Put it through a grater. This is mixed with some mayonnaise, a bit of creme fraiche if you want to, but also some mustard. So it's lovely and tangy and it works really, really well. My next one is a toasted sandwich. It's a lovely way of using over leftover ham. You're probably thinking a toasted sandwich, how basic is that? I've jazzed it up a wee bit, a little bit of creme fraiche, a little bit of mayonnaise mixed together with some cheddar cheese and some mustard. Toasted onto the grill, and I've cut them into small little party-sized pieces. The last one are these peppers here, and they're called pepperdew peppers. Now there's a little bit of a kick from them, so you just simply drain them, remove a little bit of the core, stuff them with something like an Irish feta-style cheese, which is quite firm, a little bit salty, which is lovely, and then some artichokes. So you get a jar of artichokes, chop them, and mix in some herbs. I've used a little bit of parsley, you can use chives, or else you can use a little bit of basil. And I think you have something there for everyone. You have a little bit of shellfish, you have a little bit of meat. If someone was even vegetarian, you've covered all angles. A leg of lamb is a great cut to cook over the festive season if you're cooking for large groups of people. I'm going to show you a really interesting marinade for the lamb. You can do this with lamb cutlets, but I'm using a leg of lamb on the bone, which is so, so tasty. So the secret into making a marinade, especially a leg of lamb, is to marinate it overnight. We're going to make a paste first of all. We're going to put in garlic, so just peel the garlic, and then we're going to put it into our little pestle and mortar. I'm going to put the zest of lemon in here. This is a lovely kind of paste or a marinade that you can serve with any kind of meats, but lamb and leg of lamb, it's so delicious, it really is. It really takes on all these beautiful spices and flavours. A little bit of ground cumin, and I'm going to put in some sweet paprika. Definitely worth having in your cupboard if you make a tomato soup, tomato sauce, fresh thyme and rosemary. Chop this nice and fine. Just a little bit of olive oil. Smash it first of all, the garlic. If you don't have one of these, just throw everything into a little mini chopper. Food processor will work well, so just pound this all down. So I want to leave a little bit of texture from the garlic. I don't want it too fine. This is a leg of lamb. It's quality assured, and we're going to pierce it. So we're going to use the point of the knife, make incisions. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want to get the marinade to get in there. And if you can marinate this overnight, it'll be so full of flavour. Now, I think that's more than enough. So I think the best way when you're marinating it, if you get a bag, a roasting bag or a plastic bag, get the lamb in. Don't season it. I have no salt in this. I'm going to season before I cook it. And then we're going to spread that just with the back of the spoon. And make sure you coat it all over. Then just get the bag, simply press it right in here. Now this needs to go into the fridge. If you can do this overnight, the flavour will be delicious before we roast it. So after 24 hours, when you've marinated the lamb, bake it off in kind of like a parcel, but I'm going to do it on a trivet of potatoes and some herbs. As simple as that. Try to pick a nice kind of waxy potato. So nice thick slices. We have parchment paper and we have 2 sheets of tin foil. It's kind of act like a trivet, we call this. So the tray is underneath here. So all the lamb juices are going to flavour the potatoes. It's going to be absolutely delicious. I'm going to get a little bit more rosemary, and I'm also going to get some lovely thyme. Tear them with your hands. A little bit of oil. I'm going to drizzle this all over. And then we're going to put our lamb and we're going to season it, because we didn't season the lamb, so I'll just season a little bit of the potatoes first. Some salt and a little bit of black pepper. And then your lamb. Now because it's on the bone, it's going to be so much more succulent and so much more flavoursome. So make sure you have more or less the same tray that you marinated the lamb in. I've just removed it from the bag, a little bit of salt over the lamb, because we didn't put any seasoning into the marinade. A little bit of pepper. And I'm going to put a little bit of oil over this, even though we had oil in the marinade. Wrap this, seal it in. Now, this needs to go in, have the oven preheated at 180. So after 2 hours, I'm going to unwrap it so I am to get a bit of colour onto it, and it should be golden brown and lovely and crispy. This Greek-style salad works really well with the lamb. I make the dressing first, so pour some olive oil into a bowl and then add some red wine vinegar. Season with salt and pepper and mix it all together. Slice some red onions as thinly as you can. Add these to the dressing with some halved cherry vine tomatoes. Cucumber goes in next, and this will be followed by some olives, cut into quarters with the stones removed. Tear in some flat leaf parsley, and the final ingredient is some baby spinach leaves. Mix everything together carefully. This is a lovely and colourful salad and a light, healthy complement to the roast lamb. So what I'm going to serve with it next is a little bit of mint and cumin yoghurt. So we have some natural yoghurt here, but the juice of half a lemon, which gives a lovely acidity to it. Going to put a tiny little bit of cumin, a touch of ground cumin, and this is just some fresh mint here. Sprinkle that in, a touch of salt and pepper, and then mix everything together. So we're not actually serving a gravy with it. This actually acts as the sauce. Scrape this out. This is what we call family serving, that everything is in bowls, little dishes, and then just let everyone help themselves. I'm going to go to the oven. Wow, that looks so good, and it smells amazing. All those lovely spices and herbs. So this is approximately a little bit over 2 kilos in weight, this lamb. It took about 2 hours to cook. I'm serving it slightly pink. And after about an hour and a half, I just unwrapped the parchment paper and the tin foil. That's to get colour. Now, what I like to do is just put this at the centre of the table, let someone carve it, serve it with the salad, the lovely little yoghurt dressing on the side, let everyone tuck in. It's a fabulous dish to enjoy over the Christmas. Now it's time to talk turkey. 2 years ago, I cooked a turkey crown marinated in buttermilk, and it got an amazing reaction. But there is something very special about cooking the whole bird and bringing it to the table. The tricky bit can be keeping the breast meat really succulent and moist. But here's a technique that should guarantee a perfect result. Just melted some butter, and we're going to put in some muslin. You'll get this in any kind of like good kitchenware shop, specialised shops. You know, you can go to a drapery store, they'll have that. Now you need to completely soak this. This will give lovely flavour and colour to the turkey. So before I do that, I always like to put flavour into the cavity. So I'm going to use some orange. Cut it in half. Squeeze this in. First of all, I want to just kind of keep everything together. So the best thing is just using a little cocktail stick. Turkey is such a lean meat that you really need to keep it really moist, succulent. Now, what I like to do is just to keep the shape of the bird, just use a little bit of string and just double it up like this. So tie this around, just tie a little knot in that. What I've done with the back of the turkey, I've just put 2 little cocktail sticks, holds everything together nicely. Now you can put stuffing into this if you want, it's totally up to you. I will make stuffing in a minute, but what I want to concentrate on is getting the turkey really moist. So before I put the muslin, we need to season it up. Sea salt, and then what we do is just get the muslin, it's completely mopped up all that butter, lift it over, and completely cover it. It's the breast that can dry out very, very quickly. This will keep it really, really succulent and moist. Now we're going to cook this in a trivet. This is a 6 kilo in weight bird, and we have the oven preheated at 190. So I'm going to pop that into the oven. Make sure you wash your hands, really important. So that's going to take 4 hours to cook, so it is. And after each hour, get a large spoon and baste it. It acts like a blanket, the muslin. It keeps it really moist with the butter. I'm going to show you a delicious stuffing to serve with the turkey. Let's warm up the butter. It's already melted. And I'm going to put some chestnuts into it. I do love nuts in a stuffing. Chop them roughly. They're already cooked, so all you're doing is warming them through. 1 large onion, which is finely diced. And then for a little bit of fruit, I'm using some dried cranberries. Let's sweat off the onion. I'm going to chop some herbs just while this is sweating off for a moment. The herbs I'm going to use in this is flat leaf parsley and sage. You roll it like this. So we call this a little chiffonade. In goes the dried cranberries and also the chestnuts, which are roughly chopped. Let this cook for a moment or two. We're going to season it up with some salt and then some black pepper. Get the sage and the parsley, sprinkle them all in. So just mix this all through. I have some breadcrumbs. Pour this all in here. Mix all this together so the breadcrumbs will absorb all that lovely butter. If you don't want to use as much butter, you can use half butter and a little bit of stock. So mix this, that's lovely and moist. Get some tin foil, do like a sausage shape. The easiest way to do it is just use your hands. Just kind of squash that. Get the tin foil, roll it up, twist either end, and that's what you have. So this is going to make 2 of them. Roughly for the last, say, 45 minutes of the turkey cooking, you put them onto a tray into the oven just to cook it through, and then you'll be ready to serve it up. Now the turkey has been resting for 30 minutes. Are you ready? How beautiful is that? Gorgeous, evenly browned. Use a slotted spoon or you can use a carving fork. Just lift this up and then over very gently. We're going to wrap that in tin foil, shiny side in. While that's resting, I'm going to make my gravy. Just lift out the trivet and then we're just going to warm this up for a minute. Scrape down all that kind of sediment. Sprinkle the flour all over it. Just plain flour. Just going to use the tea towel just to hold this now. It'll get hot, so be careful. The one thing we don't want over the Christmas is any burns. You're kind of making a roux, so you are. I'm going to put Madeira in first. That's what we call deglazing. The flour is going to thicken up the gravy, and then you slowly add in the stock. We need a little bit of salt and a little bit of pepper. And again, just keep whisking it. Now we've got to taste it. Have you enough salt, pepper, all that in it? Delicious. I love the Madeira. I always like to pass it just through a sieve and then kind of just shake it like that. You can use a teaspoon if you want to. And then we'll just have that ready to go just in a gravy jug. So everyone can help themselves. Delicious. Okay, so now I'm ready to dress the turkey. Lift off the tin foil. First of all, for the roasties. Get a nice potato, peel it, cut it in half, power cook it for about maybe 4 to 5 minutes. Drain off the water and knock it against the side of the saucepan. Drizzle it with some oil, roast it off for about 40, 45 minutes. In the parcel here, some root vegetables. Parsnips, celery, carrots, a little bit of chopped onion, a little bit of oil, some thyme. So they're just roasted off, but they're done in a parcel, so that keeps it really, really nice and moist. Put the roast potatoes around the platter. Next, the roasted root vegetables. So I'm just arranging these quite rustic, as you can see. It's more than enough, I think so. Cocktail sausages, roasted off in the oven. We have some pitted prunes wrapped in bacon. These are called devils in horseback. So we just arrange these, and them are cocktail sausages. Don't be tempted to eat any of them yet. You're going to have a big feast ahead of you. And the last thing then is the stuffing. I'm going to spoon it into a bowl so everyone can kind of help themselves. Nick off the end, and then with the knife. You can use the scissors if you want to open that out. Look at how moist that is. Break it up into the bowl. That's a really clever way of baking it off. And just for the final little flourish is some sage. Pick the little leaves here and then just arrange them. Using the muslin, you can be sure that you get a lovely even colour on the turkey and it's moist and it's succulent. I think it's a spectacular way of serving the Christmas turkey. Making the Christmas pudding is a ritual for many families that signals the start of Christmas. And it's a lovely tradition that we should revive. Think how much more the children will enjoy the pudding if they've had a hand in making it. This recipe is from my Auntie Maureen, who's a retired home economics teacher from Ballymahon. Very easy to make. You got to make it well ahead if you can to let it mature. The longer you make it, the better flavour. Really, it's all about the quality of the fruit here. But first of all, we're going to start making the base. We're going to use some flour. So we're going to sieve in some flour. Spices, really important. We have some mixed spice and some ground cloves. So a little bit of that, and then we have our ground cloves. Love the smell of them. Sieve this in first of all. Grate in some fresh nutmeg. Wonderful with Brussels sprouts. Cook them in boiling water. Stir fry them. Put a little bit of red onion, garlic, and a little bit of nutmeg. They're delicious, so they are. So a little bit of nutmeg goes in there. Some raisins, sultanas, and then we have some currants. Some brown sugar, mixed peel, finely chop it. Breadcrumbs. And you can make this with gluten-free breadcrumbs. These are almonds which are blanched, the skin is removed, and just roughly chop them. Grate the zest of some lemon. Then we're going to put the juice of half the lemon into this. Squeeze that all out, the juice. And then we're going to grate in some carrot. Roughly about a quarter of a carrot is enough in this. Grate it, you know, as if you're grating cheese. Hard to beat your own homemade pudding. And there are hundreds of recipes. Going to grate the apple. Don't even worry about peeling it. Just using half the apple here. With the carrot and the apple, it gives lovely moisture to the pudding. Put in 1 egg, which is just lightly beaten. And then some melted butter. And then some stout. Put in about half the bottle and we'll see how we get on. Sure, we could drink this afterwards. Using a spatula or a spoon, mix everything together. After 24 hours, the fruit will have plumped up and it looks like this. Put the mixture into a buttered pudding basin, cover it with parchment paper, and then put some tin foil over the top. Tie tightly with string. This will take about 6 hours to steam, but if you prefer, you can cook it in a bain-marie in the oven. Once your pudding is cooked, it will keep for months and months. Once it's stored correctly, it will actually improve with flavour. Now, you can serve it with a little bit of brandy butter, whipped cream if you want to, but I'm going to show you a delicious boozy custard, which is fantastic. It's infused with ground almonds, a little bit of amaretto. We splash a brandy and some rum. It's gorgeous. First thing we need to do is we need to infuse the milk and the cream. Warm this up. It's what we call scalding. So you put in your cream there and your milk. Get some ground almonds. You're infusing the milk and cream with the ground almonds, and it actually gives a lovely texture to it. Whisk this in here. Bring that to the boil. So meanwhile, I have eggs separated, 5 eggs. Put in some vanilla and scrape out all the seeds. Drop them in. With the skin, we're going to infuse the actual milk and cream with that. Just give that a little whisk, because there is still some seeds in there. For our custard, some sugar, a little bit of caster sugar, and then some corn flour. Now this is important because it kind of protects the custard. So you're really just whisking this for a minute or two, dissolving the sugar, and you're dispersing the vanilla seeds. And then I'm going to put in my alcohol in here. So I'm going to use amaretto first of all, a little splash, a little bit of rum and brandy. So the brandy next. You can make this perfectly fine just with the ground almonds, but trust me, with all these lovely, especially with the rum too, it's gorgeous. They add so much flavour and richness to the custard. Whisk this all together. It smells good. So when the milk and cream has come to the boil, just pour it into the egg yolks. Whisk this together. This needs to cook out because we have corn flour in it. Put this back on the heat. Cook this just until it coats the back of the ladle here. So that's it ready. I'm going to pass it through the sieve. So there's going to be a little bit of texture, and that's from the ground almonds. Using just your spatula, you can use a ladle if you want to gently push that through. And that's it ready. Taste it, just to make sure you have enough alcohol in it. Delicious. The almond taste is really good. For the pudding, when you have it cooked, let it sit in the little pudding bowl, let it cool down, and then you wrap it in parchment paper and tin foil. The quickest way to heat it, I get the pudding, half it, and I cut it into little wedges. And then what I do is just simply pop it into the microwave for about a minute, no longer. Cover it in cling film so it keeps the steam in there. That's really important. And there you have it. Look how moist that is. You can serve it as it is, but let me show you what we do. Get a little pudding basin. So we're going to make a presentation of a small little pudding. You push this down with the back of the spoon. The plum pudding feels nice and warm. You just simply shake it. Look at how easy that is. Now there's no need to butter this because there's enough moisture in the pudding, it'll just pop out. Make sure it's nice and hot, that's the secret. For your custard, you can pour it over, but I like to show off the pudding, pour it around. It's probably easier if you do it from the jug. I think the plum pudding with the custard is delicious, but I'm going to put a little bit of fresh cream with a little bit of vanilla pod, and it's called a creme chantilly. Just get a dessert spoon, dip it into a little bit of warm water, and then we just do a little quenelle. Put that on the side. We're going to flambe a little bit of brandy. Using a soup ladle and some brandy, and this just takes a minute or two. You need to be careful doing this. So I've got to warm this up, and then it'll just catch. So this is how you do a little flambe. That's it caught, and be really careful doing this. The secret is to have the pudding nice and hot. Pour this gently over. I hope all these recipes will inspire you to do some great cooking over the festive season. Have a wonderful Christmas and enjoy the good food.